have one goal: to interview the best in sports, to meet the biggest names and find out what makes them tick, and the St. Louis athletes who move the needle with their compelling story. I'm Frank Cusumano, and this is Sports Plus. Happy holidays and welcome to Sports Plus. I'm Frank Cusumano.
And I'm Corey Miller.
Since this is the final Sports Plus for 2022, we decided to look back on the year that was.
And we begin with the top stories, and there were a lot this year. From the return of Albert to saying farewell to him and Yadier Molina, we're welcoming back football, saying hello to soccer, and wondering what the heck is going on with the Blues. And so for tonight's main event, let's look at the biggest stories.
Reel one. He's done it! He's done it! And the Cardinals are the Central Division champs.
Loose puck! Down goes Bennington.
Oh, he's not good. He's not good.
Which, after attorney's fees, totals about $513 million.
It's cup time, St. Louis.
Okay, let's begin with Albert. What a way to say goodbye. I don't know if any Hollywood producer and writer could have come up with a better scripted season. I mean, if you factor in the low expectations and the slow beginning, nobody thought 700 was happening, and boy, did it ever.
Definitely not. You mentioned the slow start, and after the year, Albert even told us he almost hung it up because he was so disillusioned about his start. Thankfully, he stuck with it, stuck around, got 700 home runs, and his last home run at Busch Stadium in his final regular season at bat, that's one of my favorite sports moments of all time that I've seen.
I can't think of an athlete who received more standing ovations in his final season because he didn't just get it here in St. Louis.
Yes.
He got it everywhere,
Yep.
and on cue, he would perform.
Well deserved.
All right, another big story. St. Louis wins $790 million from Stan Kroenke and the NFL. I know some wanted more. $790 million is a lot, and the best part about it is Stan had to pay for almost all of it.
He did. Well, the part that comes next is the most important part, though, that we're going to be talking about forever and ever. Where's that money going to go? Hopefully it's something we can all use and a constant reminder of what the NFL had to pay us for treating us that badly.
And the admission that they did lie.
Yes.
So that was good. All right, big year for Worldwide Technology Raceway. A NASCAR event comes to town in the same year that we have an Indy car event, and if you throw in, you know, the drag races, we're the only racetrack in the country to have all three. But the big story, of course, NASCAR for the first time ever in St. Louis.
Having all three of those is something really to be proud of. The only track in the country to do that. And Frank, I was at my first NASCAR event when it was here this past year, and I'll tell you what, it was so unique. The feel was so different from any other sporting event I had ever been to. I can't wait for it to keep coming back. It was so much fun.
We are an auto racing town. In hockey, a funny thing happened to the Blues on their way to beating Colorado in the playoffs. They never got there. But we all thought they had a real good chance because Jordan Binnington was performing like he did in 2019, and then he got hurt. And that was the end of the story.
Such a weird playoff run overall if you think back, because you go from Husso to Binnington. You think they're definitely out. They have a comeback. They're in it. And then Binnington gets hurt, and that pretty much just dashed all those dreams. The name Nazem Kadri is going to live on in infamy in our town for quite a while. And now the Blues have to figure it out going into 2023.
Yeah, the concern level for the Blues may be a 1 to 10, about an 8 or a 9. We'll see what happens, though. All right, 5 local football state champions in this area. I can't remember that ever happening, and I can't remember so many teams doing it in such dominating fashion. I mean, the state championship game, you're supposed to be playing the second best team, and they just blew them off the field, a lot of them.
East St. Louis in particular outscored their Illinois opponents this year by almost 500 points. 500 points. That's ridiculous. They took on a couple national powerhouses across the state that they ended up losing to, but all across, Illinois side, Missouri side, I don't know if we've ever seen a more dominant season for high school football.
And then coming up this spring, on the same weekends, probably quite a bit, we'll have the Battlehawks with maybe 30,000 at the Dome and the MLS selling out at their brand spanking new stadium.
When we heard the XFL was going to come back, you knew St. Louis was going to be on the list to come back as well because it was so successful here. They're going to have to open those top parts of the dome at some point. Hopefully The Rock comes to town and really fires the people up. People are already fired up about soccer. That first international friendly game, oh my gosh, I can't imagine what an actual MLS game is going to be like in 2023.
Yeah. And I've been here for 30 years, and I can still remember 20 years ago, 25 years ago, people talking about, well, will the MLS ever come? It's finally come, and we're going to begin with a bang. Stay with us. Our holiday gift to you is another look at some of the best interviews and stories we aired 2022. We're coming right back. It's a scene that happens every day. A 17-year-old blind boy with his cane leaving school. And when you see it, you feel sorry for him. But after you watch where he goes next, you realize there's no reason to feel sorry for Josh Fields.
I don't feel like what I have is nearly as bad as some other people that have disabilities.
It's a sucker punch.
It was just complete shock, really.
We just decided we were going to raise a human being, not a blind human being.
Welcome back. We've gotten to tell a lot of great stories in 2022, some happy, some bittersweet.
But whatever the case, our goal is to make you feel something, and we hope we've succeeded more often than not.
Here's a look at some of our best spotlight stories.
I think I have a lot going for me in terms of I'm not like, most of the people you see with this. The average age for stomach cancer is 68 years old. Okay, I'm 21 years old, and I talked to my doctors about how many people they've had, my age with this kind of diagnosis, and you can count them on one or two hands.
And you can probably count with one finger what Hardy is doing while he battles this disease.
Oh, he's a very unique patient.
He's defending, he's running, and he's scoring.
I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. I don't think I ever will again.
Tapped it in, and then walked off, just walked off the green, let everyone else finish. And as I was walking off the green, I realized I didn't move my mark back after he had chipped. So I went over to one of the officials, asked them, I told them I didn't move my mark back.
And because Seifried didn't put the ball exactly where it was marked, it cost him 2 shots. He finished second, 2 shots behind the winner. If he didn't turn himself in,
I would have felt terrible about myself. Yeah, that would not be good.
Yeah, he was on the phone, and he was like, "What happened? What happened?" And he was real antsy. Ryan was the one that figured that out. That was Jalen Cole's dad.
Cole's father was having a heart attack, and while he was running to his dad, Wingo was thinking of his. Wingo did run in that 200-meter race and won. He had an idea: give the medal to Jalen.
He had talked to myself and the other coach that was with us to make sure that we were okay with him going and doing it if we thought it was a good idea, but it was all Ryan's idea.
Abby is on the tennis team, girls soccer, and yes, the men's varsity football team.
Everything has to go perfect from the snap, the hold, and the kick. The snap has to be good, the hold has to be good, and then the kick is like the finisher. Football, 1.3 seconds is your goal to kick it.
To obtain that time, the kicker has to start before the ball arrives. Go.
For me, I just watch the snap, and then I start my run, and I just keep my eyes locked down to where my holder's hands are, and it's just when the ball appears, and I'm like, okay, there it is.
Abby has some advice for other young ladies.
I love telling it every time, just because, we've never had a girl kicker here, and, it's just, you can do it. Just because you're a girl doesn't mean you can't kick for a football team.
On May 15th, 1984, Ozzy's playing in Memphis, and a night on the town goes off the rails. Ozzy was arrested by Shelby County Police for public drunkenness after being found staggering on Beale Street at 12:30 a.m. wearing that Blues jersey. And with one snap of the camera, a St. Louis folk hero was born. The Ozzie mugshot is on t-shirts. It's a popular profile picture during Blues playoff season, and it even graces the walls at various establishments in town. Even the Blues themselves embrace the Prince of Darkness's connection to the franchise, with Ozzie cheering on the Blues during the 2019 Stanley Cup run.
Harbor and the Blues coach and the policemen start the push and shove, and everybody is into it.
Al followed those guys down to the Zamboni. The police had billy clubs, and they whacked Al on the head.
Al was on his knees. I saw a policeman hit him over the head with the billy.
You did actually see the footman give him the nightstick.
I was 10 feet from Al when it happened.
I love that man. I thought he was a great coach. Yeah, you know, I would have died for him on the ice like most of the guys would have.
At that point, the police said the entire Blues team was under arrest. And they wanted to haul them all off to jail right then.
I said, this is ridiculous. You're not throwing my players in jail. This is my players are going back to the dressing room. We got a game to play here.
The Cardinals host the Giants in a game that heads to the 12th inning. Brummer ended up on third base as the winning run when he spotted his wife in the stands.
She was sitting behind third base. They had a flight at 5 o'clock, right? And she said, Glenn, can you do something? I looked up and said, well, yeah, I don't know, maybe.
Checks. Brummer stealing home. He is safe, and the Cardinals win. Brummer stole home. The dugout comes out, and they congratulate him. You wouldn't believe it.
So I jump up and make sure I look. I am safe, right? And so I jumped into Tommy Herr's arms. I said, we're done. Let's get off the field. Let's go have a beverage.
The amazing thing about Spezio's productiveness and popularity was he was becoming an addict.
In 2007 is when I started using cocaine, and I was always trying to balance. So one was an upper, one was a downer. So I was constantly trying to balance to be able to play and survive. And at that point in 2007, you know, I basically became an addict and an alcoholic all at once.
Just hold that steady.
He did go through this for a reason, and his reason is to try to help other people, just to keep them from either going through what he went through, or to help them see that you can get beyond it and you can have a positive impact and a positive role in life.
I always say, as long as you've got a pen, as long as you've got a breath, you know, you can always write a happy ending.
Making major leagues, maybe 1 in 1 million, 1 in 2 million. Starring in a World Series, maybe 1 in 10 million. What you're doing right now is tougher than that.
It started lightning, and I'm on the first tee, and they tried to get me to go in the clubhouse, and I wouldn't do it because the gallery was there by themselves. And I said, don't worry about it, I'm going to protect these people. I said, if it starts lightning, I said, I'm going to hold a 1-iron up because not even God can hit a 1-iron. And then the next week, I got hit by lightning on a Friday. I think it was Friday the 13th, and I ended up in intensive care for a couple of days and tore my body up a little bit. But I was back in about 6 weeks, and I won the Canadian Open in 76 after that.
We've had some great guests this past year, from Busch Stadium all the way to Hollywood.
As well as the past, present, and future of sports in our town.
Here are some of our best Cardinal Buick Sunday conversations. Will you use your considerable size advantage and experience advantage to try to dissuade Ali Marmol to not take you out of games when he comes to the mound?
We've had this talk. We had this talk right after the season ended, and we found out that he was probably going to be the manager. I just thought, you know, you're what, 5-6 years younger than me. I got you by about 100 pounds. I mean, you really going to come out there and try to take the ball from me? And he's like, I've thought about this already too. This is going to be interesting. But see, the great thing about Ali is we have great respect for him.
I'm sure your kids have seen all the video before, but when they see it up on the big screen, did they ever say to you, like, boy, Dad, you were a bad guy?
No, I just saw him, you know, I was very competitive, still am to a certain degree, but slowly trying to back that down. And really just, you know, I try to teach them work ethic, compete and leave it all out there every time you're playing a sport. going to school, whatever it is.
To finally realize you're here, what is that like?
Almost unbelievable. Last night, all the Hall of Famers that were in town were taken to the bust room. There was probably 100 guys in there, all Hall of Famers, lights dim, and the statement that John Madden said at night, these guys talk to each other. I had that feeling. And they, Mean Joe Green spoke, Larry Zonka spoke, and I spoke representing the group. And it was one of the finest experiences I've ever had in my life.
What is your baseball dream moving forward?
Well, obviously, I want to win a World Series. I mean, that's what I really want. I just want to win the division, win a World Series, and then see how many times we could do that. And then obviously, just have a healthy career. And hopefully by the end of my career, I can look back and say I have no regrets.
What is your best Brett Hull story?
I had a number of them. I think the best way I can describe it is one day early when I coached Brett, we were working on the power play. And I brought him in after practice, and I was going to have this discussion with him about the power play. And he presented ideas to me that I never thought about, I never heard. I quite frankly didn't understand it. It was so advanced for me that I made a decision when he left my dressing or my coach's room that from then on, I'm not going to talk about the power play with Brett Hull. I'm going to talk about music and golf.
Yeah, and despite your fame, when you're around Brett Hull today, is there a part of you thinking, gosh, Brett Hull knows who I am?
Oh, for sure. That's always been the case. I was the bartender for those guys back at Cardwell's in Clayton in the early 90s. So I still want to go run and get those guys Bud Lights all the time.
What was the first fun thing you bought with your Major League Baseball money?
My mama house.
Nice.
My dad a car.
Wow. What kind of car?
A Caprice Classic. I let him. Matter of fact, that was the best. Unbelievable, man. I took him to the car lot. Chevy dealer in Concord. He loved Chevy. I said, Pop, we got out the car. I said, Pop, pick which one you want. And he looked at me and he said, are you serious? I said, yeah, Pop, pick which one. I mean, it's just to see him melt, how are you real? Are you serious? Yeah, Pop, pick which one you want. He picked it. He went to his knees, man.
As many people on the national level felt this way, that the World Series did miss that big-time appeal without you. And Bill Simmons even went out of his way to say, I miss Joe Buck. What about some of the outpouring of affection when you weren't there?
Well, I think it just points out that old adage that you either have to die or retire before people really kind of appreciate what you did. Part of me was like, where the heck were all you people when I was doing it? The other part of it was you just kind of laugh at it. It's kind of the backup quarterback situation. Yeah. Everybody loves the backup, but they want to rip on the guy that's in there taking the snaps.
And it couldn't be any better than it is right now, is it?
No, it's perfect. I enjoy it. I'm having a great time, enjoying the young players, enjoying the fans, connecting back with them. It's just, you can't ask for anything better than this, especially to close this chapter of my life. Winning a championship, it'll be, overwhelming.
Time to cap off our 2022 with the well-first health, frankly speaking. We had a year with our town getting $790 million from the NFL for Stan Kroenke being a liar. And remember what he said, that we were just a baseball town? Well, sports fans, get your seatbelts on because we are going to have a spring to remember in St. Louis. How about a weekend with the Cardinals, Blues, MLS, XFL, and the Billikens in the NCAA tourney? Then in the summer, record-breaking crowds for the Ascension Charity Classic and the NASCAR event at Worldwide Technology. All in our little town. Nice to be a sports fan here. Wouldn't you agree? Stan was wrong again. Merry Christmas. For Corey Miller and our executive producer, Andy Moeller, and editor, Bill Bennett, I'm Frank Cusumano. Good night, everybody.
The 1-1 pitch. A swing, and there it goes! Left field, way back. That's home run number 700. Pujols hits a 3-run homer, and he hit 699 and 700 at Dodger Stadium on September September 23rd, 2022. 8:23 p.m.